So now let us understand what do we mean by strategy of playing a game. Given the game tree, the strategy is a subtree, but then which subtree are we talking about? We are talking about the subtree where max has only one choice, but for mean I must explore all choices. So a strategy is a subtree of a game tree that has one choice for max and all choices for mean. Once we have a strategy, it actually means that the choice for the player is frozen and the outcome of the game therefore would depend on the opponent. So most game playing programs produce moves for the player, traditionally max. Our minimum values determine the best that we can have for the mean player. Maximum values of the children determine what we can have for the max player. So the idea of strategy is about doing two things. You traverse the tree starting at the root. If you are at the max level, then you choose one branch below it, and if you are at the mean level, then you choose all the branches below it, and you return the subtree so constructed, and the subtree gives you a strategy. So here is the game tree that we have been looking at, and the dark arcs that I have marked here with one choice for max, all possible choices for mean, and again one choice for max is a strategy for max. So now having defined what strategy is, how do one ensures to find out an optimal strategy? Selection of the optimal strategy requires solving the game tree, and as we have seen, for a very simple game like Grandy's game, search techniques analogous to those used for finding AND/OR solution graph is good enough, but this is true only for games with very small trees. So games with small trees can be solved completely, and we can apply AND/OR solution graph searching techniques to find out the best strategy. This is true for even a game like tic-tac-toe. So a tic-tac-toe game, we can always ensure a draw when both the players play perfectly. So let me remind you what the tic-tac-toe game is if we have forgotten from your school days. So you are supposed to create a matrix and you give an x, your opponent gives an 0, thereafter you give an x and your opponent gives a 0, you give an x, and at that point you win the game. So such small games like the Grandy's game and games like tic-tac-toe, we can always ensure draw when both players play perfectly for tic-tac-toe. But for complex games like chess, checkers, it's not feasible to have the complete game tree. For more complex games, AND/OR search to termination is therefore out of question. Complete game trees, as we have seen for a game like chess, involves 10 to the power 40 nodes. Therefore, there must be some other trick that I need to apply to get to an optimal strategy for finding out a winning move. This is where we take help of evaluation functions. As we cannot inspect the complete game tree and compute the minimax value, we resort to other means to select the best move. In fact, we do not select the best move. We select the move that appears to be best for the current move. And then as we get more information, we revise and take the next best move. So, we use a function to evaluate the goodness of a state. This function is something like the heuristic function for informed search, and this function is called the evaluation function. Evaluation function is applied to the intermediate nodes, and they allow us to pick up nodes that appears best. So, let us go back to our game of tic-tac-toe and try to understand the use of an evaluation function. Let us say this is the current position of a game of tic-tac-toe. So, I now have to give an x. So, the possibilities of Max is that he can give an x at this corner or an x at the middle. There is a possibility of Max putting his cross here and at this location or at this location. So, we have 5 possibilities for Max in this current scenario. Question is, which is the best move for Max to go from here? In order to answer that question, we will use an evaluation function for tic-tac-toe. So, let us look back at this tic-tac-toe node. We define an evaluation function which is the number of directions open for Max minus the directions open for mean. Now, in this position shown on your screen, you have directions open for Max as this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So, the directions open for Max are 6. Now, let us take a moment and see what are the directions possible for mean. When I say directions possible for Max or mean, I mean here directions that could ensure a win for the player. So, we have one direction in which mean could win this game, 2, 3 and 4. So, the number of directions which are open for mean is 4, and therefore, we would evaluate this current state configuration as 2 for Max. Now, there are 2 interesting values that one needs to understand. I say the value of the evaluation function is positive infinity if it ensures that I have a win for Max, and if there is a win for mean, I say the evaluation function evaluates to negative infinity. Given this definition of an evaluation function and given the fact that I am looking for the best first move for my Max player given a state configuration as shown and want to evaluate the 5 configurations one after another, let us try to play for min. So, once I have come to this location marked with the circle on your screen, let us see what are the different moves possible for mean. So, as shown here, mean could have 0 at this extreme left or a 0 in the middle button row, 0 at the bottom of the right or a 0 at the middle of the right. Using the evaluation functions that we have defined, we would compute the values. So, number of positions open for Max at this location is 1 and 2. So, we have a 2 there. Number of directions which is open for mean at this location is this. So, we have 2 minus 1, 1 as the value of the evaluation function. The number of directions open for max is 1, 2 and 3. The number of directions open for mean is only this, which is 1, and therefore, the evaluation function is 2. So, continuing in similar way, I have 2 directions open for max and only a single direction open for min. So, that evaluates to 1. Here I have 3 directions open for max, 1, 2 and 3, whereas I have only a single direction open for min. So, it evaluates to 2. So, these are the evaluation functions. Now, remember, after I have given this move here, that means after max moves here, its means move, and mean would love to minimize the value of the successor node. So, of these evaluated values, mean would pick up 1 that gives it a value of 1. So, mean would either move here or it would move here. So, for our evaluation of which is the best move for me or which is the best move for max, when I say me here I mean the player max. So, which is the best move for max at this point, I would try to figure out which is the best possible allowable value once I have moved there by mean. So, we see that the value that I get for that particular position that I move to is 1. I could then move to the second node, and it is interesting to see that at this node, the moment I allow mean to play, mean could mark this position and it would win the game. So, the evaluated value is minus infinity. I could evaluate the different values for the different moves of the mean node to be 1, 0 and 1, as I have explained in the previous move, but then mean would love to pick up the value that has the minimum, and therefore, this node here would be minus infinity. We can move ahead and look at the next node, which again gives you the value of minus infinity. As you can see, if max do not fill up this, mean would immediately fill that up and ensure a win, and this will have a minus infinity value for the evaluated function, whereas rest of them could be 0 or 1. We compute for the fourth option and we see similar values because this is left out. If this is left out, we will see that there is a win for min, and similarly for the fifth move. Now, it is interesting to note that if I start with a move that does not block this winning position for min, the next move that mean would give is to ensure a win, and the backed up values for all these nodes will therefore be minus infinity. This is what I have shown in this slide, the backed up values for each of them based on mean's next move. The only possibility of mean not winning is when I close this position in my next move, and that gives me an evaluated value of 1. So, it is max's move and I want to maximize the value of the evaluation function. So, under this scenario, I would love to place an x in this particular position. This is what is done by computing the evaluation function. Now, we have not looked at what is the best path to take to ensure win for max. But what we have done is computed some value for the next level and somehow backed up those values to see what is the current best possible move. And this is what we will deal with in the next lecture, where we will be talking of a procedure called the minimax procedure. So, for complex games such as chess or checkers, we have been emphasizing that it is not possible to extract the best move. So, a good first move is all that I can extract, and this I do by a procedure called minimax. What we do in this is we back up values on the evaluation of the tip nodes and continue to back up values level by level until finally the successor of the start node are assigned backup values. The entire procedure actually rests on the assumption that the backup values that I get are more reliable measure rather than directly applying the static evaluation function. This is what we will see in the next lecture. Thank you very much.